Hey YouTube family, happy November 1st. I came across some videos earlier this evening that once again, they keep finding me. You know how that's how YouTube, chooses what goes into your feed or, suggestions along the right side. And this one came up tonight and I am just about done listening to it. It's called Bryce Taylor, and in parentheses, Sue Ford and Ted Gunderson, and they're talking about MK Ultra and the New World Order. Okay, so now this is an older video. This is probably 20 plus years old, and Susan Ford is that audiobook that I shared that I was listening to, and I've listened to 3 hours. I did listen to another half hour of it. And it got much less repetitive because she goes into these just a different part of her experience, whereas I was sharing that it got kind of repetitive and it's really hard, that content. And so I did listen to another half hour of that yesterday. But what I want to tell you is if you want a quick summary of her experience in MK Ultra as a mind control slave and the different facets of that they used her for, she does a really good summary. This video that I'm referring to is 2 hours long, and she starts at about the halfway mark. So if you want to hear some of what I've been listening to on that audiobook, the audiobook is 10 and a half hours. And this is just a 1 hour summary, but she does a pretty good job. And Bryce Taylor is a name that she her name is Susan Ford, but she changed it to Bryce Taylor so that she could keep herself safe because she was getting death threats and that sort of thing. So sometimes they go back and forth on her name, Bryce Taylor and Susan Ford. And we understand how that would happen when she's actually sharing this information publicly and on YouTube. It's posted on YouTube now. Now, this is older information, but it still was scary for her at the time. So Ted Gunderson, now he's an interesting guy too. Maybe you've heard of him. He worked for the Los Angeles FBI for almost 28 years. And then he shares a little bit about how he got into the satanic ritual abuse, and it was based on this murder case. He shares about that, so I'm not going to go into it, but he shares about that, and that brought him from his work of, just under 30 years working in the FBI, and then finding out about the satanic occult behaviors. And so then when I looked up Ted Gunderson and did a little search on him while I was listening to his presentation is an hour, and then of course Susan is an hour. And he did a video called Pedophiles Run the World, and I'm not sure which year he did that, but I want to listen to that one. Now I'm done for today, but I'm going to listen to that one tomorrow, and I can't wait to listen to that. And then he also, Ted Gunderson, made reference to a book called Pawns in the Game by William Guy Carr. And he said it is the best book that he has read about that just summarize how far and wide pedophilia is. And he goes into, these are all linked, the mind control, and then using like for Susan Ford, and then also Kathy O'Brien, and of course there's others, but those are the two that I'm familiar with. Sorry, I jumped when my phone gave me a notification. But he's talking about the mind control and how they have been using that for a long time, and then creating these mind control slaves that become then sex slaves, and then they also program information into them. Remember that? I shared about that. And then they drive her over to someplace, and then he says a code word, and then she says everything that, she's been told, and it's very robotic. And she does have some memory because she has been working on integrating. How when you have multiple personality disorder, which is now called dissociative identity disorder, which is that trauma reaction in the brain, and it compartmentalizes information in your brain, and then so that that's why they do it. That's why they expose these poor kids to trauma and various other, like, mind control, what do you call it? Like programming. And I was going to say experiments, but it's not experiments anymore. They know what they're doing. So it's programming. And how they then use these people for various, to relay this information, but it's all in code. And then she just got done saying, just before I started making this video, that they always coupled sex with these government officials and various other people, sex, and then if they needed information, it was because of how sex changes the brain, that it actually, the information then impacted the brain more like deeply or more so. And so she's talking about that, and I'm like, oh, dear Lord. So this, again, as I'm sharing, this is where God has me. And he is showing me how corrupt things have been, much further, much more pervasive than I ever knew. We know that there's always been some corruption in the world because, you know why? It all comes back, well, it really gets dialed back to Satan, but it also gets dialed back to greed. There's a whole lot of greed going on, and evil is the avenue they choose. And of course, greed is evil in itself, and then just the wretched behavior that goes with it. So this is, I have the other books that I mentioned to you before that I want to read. I've not gotten to those yet. Tomorrow I'm going to watch that Pedophiles Run the World. That's an hour and 20 minutes. So I'm going to watch that tomorrow. And then I want to get Pawns in the Game by William Guy Carr. And Ted Gunderson says that's like the best, most detailed, best written book on this sort of thing, the satanic ritual abuse and then mind control. And all of this is for the purpose of leading to the New World Order. So, and this is where the Lord has me right now. So, again, I don't read or listen to this information every single day. It's too difficult, but I have a steady diet of it lately. And I'm still praying, Lord, I know that you're working in me and you're leading me to something. But for right now, I'm just in study mode where I'm either reading or I am listening to YouTube videos on this stuff. So I want to share it with you. This is big stuff. This is big stuff. And I realize it's difficult. So I want to give like that trigger warning for people that, maybe aren't able to take in this kind of information at this time, because it is hard to hear. So I will put the link in the description box for this particular video. And it is older. You'll see that as soon as you click on the link, but it's so good. And it starts to dip a little bit when Ted Gunderson is sharing, not the first part, but as he goes on a little bit, it starts to dip, and then he wraps up, and then it goes to Susan. And so just hang in there through that. He shares some information on an old overhead we can hardly see what it is, and he's just talking about this satanic ritual abuse, that the area where they practice that. And he names, I can't remember where it is now because I've just been bombarded with so much information lately, but he names the like school or daycare or whatever it is, and then they would take these poor little kids in these underground tunnels and all this stuff. And he was actually investigating this and found information, and then he finds the information on it, and then the FBI does nothing. You know why? Because they're all in cahoots together, and yeah, so it's just so sad to me. It's the good old boys club, and who's in, who's out, and the only people that ever get charged with anything are people that are outside the circle. The rest of them can be as, they can murder, they can rape, they can, literally ruin people's lives with their programming, and all that's okay, but as long as you're inside the circle. But if you're outside of it, you're, then the law comes into the picture. So, man, is it disgusting. And I think we've all known some of that, but again, I'm just saying to the degree is what's so shocking. We knew that, like celebs will get off, and athletes and different people and stuff like that don't, the law doesn't apply to them. We get that. I'm just saying I'm finding out a much deeper level and how far and wide this has spread. So anyway, let me wrap up. And so I'm going to share that one for today. Tomorrow it will be Pedophiles Run the World. And I'm going to watch it first, and then I'll share a little snippet about it and post that one tomorrow for anyone that wants to join me in this journey. So, yeah, happy Sunday, family of God. And let's just keep pressing in. We know there's big stuff. The election's coming up this week, so we've got big stuff there too. So anyway, let's just keep praying for our nation, praying for God's will, and just keep learning and growing in the things of the Lord, whatever He has for us. So be blessed, family of God. Thank you.